Hi guys, it's a great pleasure to see you all here and everyone who will going to see us on the record. Today is Today is 16th of November, and this is our 22nd meeting of our Finnegans Wake Ukrainian reading journey. Yep. I will ask Linda to tell more about us, and then we are ready to proceed.
Okay, right. Yes, our journey, as we prefer to call it, started almost a year ago on the 22nd of December 2023. And we are a fast-moving group if to compare with some others, because I've visited or contacted a lot of groups to learn from their experience. So hello, my brothers and sisters in Joyce, my siblings in Joyce, right? From London, Dublin, Glasgow, California, Melbourne, and of course, my favorite Zurich group. Hello. So we move faster, not because we're super smart or not because we're hasty, we just have a different approach. And you will see today, we do not usually unpack every single reference, and we don't go line by line, but rather focus on patterns and bigger pictures if we can see them, and also on our personal perceptions. I also do sketch notes of our meetings, something like this, which I call mind maps, because they are the maps of our generally confused minds. We meet once in 2 weeks on Zoom, but we also have an ongoing chat in Telegram where exchange ideas, thoughts, images, songs, immature jokes, and so on. So this chat and our meetings are usually in Ukrainian, but we switch into English if we have a guest. And today we do have a guest, and it's not the first time and we are very happy to have Bob Campbell, the man behind Maybe Night. Hi, Bobby. How are you today?
I am great. Thank you so much for having me. I had such a great time the last time I was here, and like everyone I encountered got an earful of you, they told me this, and we talked about that, and like so. Yeah, I had such a great time. I'm delighted to be back, and I'm also very excited to get to share your group with my world in a more direct fashion. Everyone can kind of see what it's like, and yeah, I love the idea of kind of like groups blending together, and like we talk in our like little Discordian world. We talk a lot about the mycelium network, the underground network of the tendrils of mushrooms that support each other, spread across vast distances. And so I like to think of that happening, of those kind of connections and those kind of like self-supporting systems growing. So that's kind of how I think of it.
Oh, I love the mycelium metaphor. So let's make this mycelium grow. Let's get started. We are now in the middle of nowhere, okay, in the middle of chapter 3, but it is a strange place to be with very low visibility now and lots of fog. And before we dive into the fragment for today, I think we need a little recap, because people will be watching us who are, I don't know in which parts of Finnegans Wake they are lost right now. So perhaps someone can recap it for us quickly.
I'm very happy to do so. Yes.
Previously on Finnegans Wake.
And I also, having the microphone, want to use the opportunity to thank Alexandra and Linda for all the work they put in to organize these calls. That's the reason the calls are so good, is because of all the preparation and organization. And I kind of fully expect at some point, halfway through reading the book, they will just find a way to summon the ghost of James Joyce and assign him some reading. Just to have the complete experience. But I'm
don't spoil it for people. No spoilers, this is coming, yes. But later.
Beautiful journey in such a form.
Fantastic. So chapter or section 1.2 ends with a song. And it's a song of songs. It's a love song of H. Chimpton Earwicker. And through section 1.3, the echoes of the song continue to reverberate. They spread through space, they spread through time, forward and backwards. They spread through different strata of society, from priests to lowlives. They cross language barriers. So it's not just Chinese whispers. There's Finnish and Hungarian and Portuguese and Japanese. They travel wearing different clothes and different hats and shoes. They spread through gossip. They spread through a fairy tale that is being told to school children by a mythical bard under a monument, or maybe told to a small girl named Alice. These children then grow up and continue telling the tale. They spread through theater performances, through the Song of the Skalds. They spread by telephone and television. So they're viral, they're mimetic, they're like many other viral things. They have taboos inside them, which helps them spread even more, because we love talking about taboos. Now, as these echoes spread, they become distorted. And keeping in mind that the original information that they're based on in the song is also completely untrustworthy. So it's untrustworthy information being distorted further. And in the act of spreading, they also change their carrier. So imagine like a carrier pigeon carrying a message, but also being somehow changed by it. And so as a result, the storytellers also seem to change, and maybe the cat was a pipe becomes a priest or something. So there's a lot of confusion about who's the carrier of these messages. And at the end of the day, all we have is echoes. We have echoes and kind of a faint smile, like a Cheshire cat smile. And so that's all we can do, is just smile and keep listening for the echoes.
Thank you. That was beautiful, right? I'm going to write a poem out of all this. Basically, I'm going to take what you said and break it into lines. It will be a poem. Okay, thank you very much. Right, so we're almost ready to begin, but because we take lots of fun at the Finnegans Wake slogan very seriously in this group, I mean, very seriously, we are going to do a drinking game. So we have a list of cues. So we read the text and we discuss. And if in our discussion we find this, unpack this, we are allowed to drink. Nobody is allowed to drink at any other time during the session. And let me introduce what we in Ukraine call the autumn soup. But, you know, for other people, it's mulled wine or glue wine. What have you got?
I have Connemara Irish whiskey here. Unfortunately, I'm not sure you can see.
No, we can't. But yes,
but
the smell,
Connemara,
the taste is in our hearts. Yes.
yeah, we have. So I will join drinking with Connemara.
Okay.
I would say I have water.
Water is great. Water is wonderful.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you guys.
I mean, what is whiskey if not water of life? Come on.
Well, it's more. It's in the middle of the day here. I gotta drive my son in about 45 minutes. So, so yes, that's why I have water.
So I'm drinking Ukrainian Pétillant Naturel, which is a type of natural wine, which I like very much. And Ukrainians are getting better at doing it. But style was born from France, was imported the idea.
Okay. Yanina?
I will be boring, but I'm not drinking something special. It's masala.
Masala.
Yes.
How is this not special?
It's not wine. It's not something alcoholic. And I've got Stollen.
What more special? I mean, wonderful. You good?
So I have a perfect mixture.
Absolutely.
Nice mix. So I'm afraid, yeah, the American contingent is being a bit Puritan. It's 8 a.m. for me, 8 in the morning. So I am sticking with tea for the time being. But I do have one of my favorite beverages here. It's a Ukrainian Imperial Stout, Pakfutin. It's produced nearby here. So I very much enjoy their beer.
Okay. Absolutely.
Nice.
Right, so we are ready now, and we'll start with page 55 and line 3. Okay, Bobby, can we persuade you to read for us?
Absolutely, I would be delighted. All right. The house of Atreus is fallen indeedest, Ilium, me romor more nomates, a verging on blight like the mundy banks of Feniana, but deeds bounds going arise again. Life, he himself said once, his biographiend, in fact, kills him very soon, if yet not after. In a wake, livet or cricket, on the bunk of our breadwinning lies the crops of our seed father. A phrase which the establisher of the world by law might pretentily write across the chest front of all manner woman born. The scene refreshed, reroused, was never to be forgotten. The hen and crusader, ever intermutomergent, for later in the century of that one Pusine band of fact ferreters, then an exhibili out of the custom huts, retired, hurt, under the 65s Act, in a dressy black modern style, and we were shiny tan Burlingtons, Tam, Hammed, and Dicky, qui precoce and pejegged, rehearsed it pip-appointing with a dignified, copied, bow to a name cousin of the late Archdeacon FX preserved Coppinger, a hot fellow in his night, may the Mother of Guard have massic on him, and a pool woman of our first trans-Hibernian, with one still sadder circumstance, which is a Dirk hurt skewerer, if ever to bring bouncing brimmers from marbled eyes.
Thank you so much. Right.
Absolutely.
So in the previous fragment, there was a lot of movement across the landscape. This movement continues, and this jaunting Irish car that has been traveling around for a while seems to be transforming here into a train, and it is traveling on nothing less than Trans-Hibernian line. So that's a lot. So probably we are looking out of the window of the train, or vice versa. We are part of the landscape looking at this train passing. We can be, anywhere in this picture. But what strikes me here is that the fall is always with us, but the fall here in the beginning, it's the fall of the house of Atrix. The house of Atrix is fallen in deep dust, and there's so much in it. It's it's Greek mythology, it's the fall of Troy, and it's probably the fall of the house of Usher from Edgar Allan Poe. In this, so to say, Troy is combined with the context that is quite close to home for us, because we recognize someone here. By the way, Edgar is also doing a kind of matrix for us with interesting clues to find. And there was here, he called it the fall of the house of Atreides. Yes, here it is, the fall of the house of Atreides from Dune, and I'm not exactly sure what happens with the house of Atreides, but wherever there is a house, well, let's agree, sooner or later it is going to fall in some epical manner. Okay, guys, so what would you like to comment on this bit?
Well, Alexander seems ready to drink, but
I found something, but maybe I'm wrong. But
I told you, we find it together, then we drink.
Okay.
Yes, and we agree. What have you drunk to? Tell us.
I haven't drunk for now.
Okay, right.
I'm waiting.
You're waiting. Cool. Okay, right.
I will make a case for opposition and kind of the opposites meeting here, because very soon after the house is falling, we're told that deeds are going to arise again. So
absolutely right. So one of the cues on our drinking list is the unity of opposites, coincidentia oppositorum, which is one of the motifs for Joyce. He loves combining those opposites. So what's my mulled wine like? I haven't tasted yet. Yeah, and it's a combination of sin and pleasure, just as it has to be.
I would say that crops is probably another coincidence of opposites, because you have the corpse and the crops. So you have death and birth in one.
Yes, I'll take a quick drink to that. And I will say, yes, absolutely. I've noticed that. And that sends us back to Egyptian mythology. And corpse, the wake, we have the wake here, the word itself. Life is awake. Yes, life is awake, which is in itself a composition of opposites, because, well, life and it is a funeral, let's say. But wake in itself is a kind of crazy word, because it means funeral and it means wake up, so go back to life. And it's one of the key words, obviously, in Finnegans Wake. Okay. So yeah, I know that you wanted to comment on you know who
on Ilya of Pechерsk, which was present in Igor's matrix. But first, I would like to add another reference regarding Paul, and it's here in Ilya because it's Miramare. Miramare Castle is closely associated with Habsburg Empire, and it was at the time Joyce living when this empire and this dynasty fall.
Absolutely, another house that fell, and I visited Miramare this year on my last day in Trieste.
Yeah, so it's house that lasted, I don't know how many hundreds or how many centuries lasted this house. So, and then Ilya of Pechirsk, yes, it's important figure for us because we need to decolonize it because it used by the Russia, and it was like promoted by the Russia as the Russian folklore figure, which is not exactly correct, or maybe not correct at all, because first, Ilya of Pechirsk is a true historical figure to which it is related, and this figure was acting in Kiev, Kiev Rus, and the relics of this figure are still in the Kiev Pechirsk monastery, and eventually this monastery was reclaimed by Ukraine a year ago, because for many years it was controlled by Russian church, and only now in 2023 this church was reclaimed by the Ukrainian Orthodox Church, which is very important. And speaking about Ilya Muromets, it's just very good connection with Joyce, because how Russian propaganda machine made this figure. They just merged different entities, because in fact this Ilya of Pechirsk, according to the historical studies, is more likely to be born in Chernihiv Oblast with the city of Murovля, and his true name must be Ilya Murovlyanin, because there is a story that he got to Kiev very quickly. It's possible from Chernihiv, but it's not possible from Murom, which is thousands of kilometers from Kiev. And in fact, in 17th century, there was a figure in Murom whose name was also Ilya, and he was a local robber, and it was called Ilya Muromets. And they just merged these two entities, and they were very successful, as Russian propaganda machine is very successful, with lots of money, lots of great writers, historians who work for this. And that's why for us it's not very pleasant to see in commentaries when Ilya Muromets is always called Russian folklore hero, which is not true. He is Kiev folklore heroes, and Kiev is now Ukraine. So,
yeah, yes, thank you very much. It's interesting to see what Igor told us about the gospel, about, like, we keep hearing echoes of the same false thing over and over again. Here it is. It's right there in the figure of Ilya. Thank you. Yeah, okay, so what else would you like to comment?
I would like to add, guys, that it's interesting that I didn't recognize it by myself. This Iliam Maromor Murnomets, like Ili Lama Savachvani, though I know this quotation very good from the point of view of hero's journey, from the point of view like it is used in many songs and many. It's like very. It doesn't matter if you are inside the Christian tradition or no. It's something. It's like a cultural clue. Yeah. And then when I wrote, it's very nice. I see a couple of interesting parallels here. That first of all, Ilya as far, maybe wrong, but as far as I remember the story, he was laying on the bed. He had some problems till 33 years. And Christ also was waiting to fulfill his how to say in English, purpose of life, like his
Life goal.
life goal. Yep, Christ also waited for 33 years. It's interesting. Yep, and this ili lama savahvani how this internal like, also, sorry, I'm not sure how to say in English, like the dark night of the soul, like a crisis, and how it was overwhelmed, and it's always is connected with falling and rising, because we can consider this this how to say сумнівы.
Doubts.
Doubts, thank you. These doubts of Christ, like a kind of small falling, because he was not ready to proceed. Yep. So it's very nice. It's very nice, like a symbol. Also that Bobby and someone else mentioned about the crops and corpse. Yep. For me, it's also about the Osiris, about the Egyptian mythology. Sorry, I forgot to mention about the Mornomaids. It's very nice how you know this famous joke about Benedict Cumberbatch, that you can change any letters in his name, Camembert, etc. But you for sure will understand that it's about the Benedict Cumberbatch. Sorry, I'm not sure even how to pronounce it properly. But now for me, this Mornomaids. And exactly, it's the context which is inside the book. It's like the eyes of gods. You know, you can add here cheese, eyes of gods, whatever, and still it will sound nicely. So it was very interesting. Yep, maybe that's all from my side for
Right.
this
If
one.
we mentioned Jesus and other figures, there's also a lot of Confucius in the whole fragment that we've read for today. I'm not a big expert on him, but I've been reading on Fleet and other places that there was this phrase about chest front, yeah, and so apparently Confucius was born with lots of signs of wisdom. There was some signs on his chest, and his earlobes were particularly long or something. So I was thinking about it. So someone who was there to witness his birth must have looked at all of them, and they must have had a guide or something. So long earlobes. Oh, that means that he's going to be very wise. Okay. But I was also looking for a picture maybe of Confucius, maybe Confucius the baby, maybe showing the signs, but somehow no one came up with it, or I couldn't find one. Something that artists out there should look at. Okay.
And so something that seems to fit in with their interpretations that are popping up. And just one way that I read Finnegans Wake is I like to use the skeleton key for the outline. Mm-hmm. So the skeleton key like sets the big picture, and then you can go into the text and telescope in and not be quite so lost, except for you don't have to accept it as true, the outline that Joseph Campbell gives, but it's just an interesting gloss to give. So just real quick, can I set the stage of what he thinks is going on in this scene?
Okay.
In this chapter. So this is, so last time I was with you guys, we were going over HCE's crime, like either the misunderstanding or the actual crime that he committed. And so this, now where we're at now, is his trial and incarceration. So which kind of makes sense with Confucius. Confucius is a lawgiver. And so now we have HCE is being held accountable for his crime and is on trial. So the next chapter attempts to follow the history of the trial that resulted from the scandal. Joyce plays with this as a scholar's problem, even more difficult than the first, for there have been, it would seem, during the long course of the years, no end of cases of this kind. The features of the parties involved melt confusingly into one another, yet through the baffling surface uncertainties emerges an undeniable archetypal configuration, and this, with utmost plausibility, presents itself as the inevitable hero HCE. So just the idea that there's a trial going on, but there's a blending of the character of the accusers and the accused. And another thing that he suggests is, as he's going around on the train, which as we set up the fall, we also set up the rise, that the viewers see the creator god everywhere in the journey, which makes sense because, and it also makes sense why the accusers and the accused are merging is on one level is because it's a dream. Because when you interact with dream characters, there is a unity in those interactions because it is just another part of you interacting with yourself in that context. It's not the only context, but that's what I'm thinking of as I'm going through here. So I figured I'd share.
Okay, well, you mentioned HCE, and let me just throw in another drinking cue because HCE is on the list, but we've got to find HCE in the text. And here we've got Zihan and Crusader ever intermutant, and how can you not drink to that?
Since you mentioned the creator, we do have a creation myth here, which is life is awake, which is a phrase which the establisher of the world, the creator, wrote across the chest of all men and women. This reminded me a lot of the golem because that's how the golem was created. It's a bunch of clay, and you're right. I think the rabbi wrote truth, and then he deleted the letter and it became death. And then that's how the golem was deactivated. So life is awake contains, both life and death in it. So it's kind of this activation phrase for the golem. So there's a bit of a creation myth here. You also brought up the railroad. There is a great Trans-Siberian or potentially Trans-Siberian railroad in here, and a Pullman wagon. And I also did add a let me see, here we are. I did add a pull woman. So this is a conductor on a British Pullman wagon, but also reading about the Pullman wagons. They're usually train cars, but I also found that in Kiev, there was a tram, a 4-axle tram that was referred to as a Pullman wagon, Pullmanovsky Vagon, and those began running in Kiev as early as 1908. So this is another
so that's your picture because I did not understand the reference for it. Okay, and now we know.
So Pullman, Pull woman. We had Ilya Pechersk. We had pipa pointing. So the pipe, that is the attribute of the CAD. And then FX preserved Coppinger is Francis Xavier, or in this case, Charles Francis Xavier, the founder of X-Men. So the Jesuits are ever present among us. So lots of good stuff in this.
Yes, I was impressed how much stuff from your matrix was in this very first fragment. And by the way, another cue. So you've just read the chest front of all men or woman born. Well, in Macbeth proudly says that I'm not of woman born. So that is a reference to Shakespeare. But wait, come on, Jan, I haven't finished. It's Shakespeare plus. We drink to Shakespeare, but there is Shakespeare in close proximity with some other genius. But since this is all the reference to Confucius plus Shakespeare, that's our drinking here.
Nicely done.
But I was sure this masculine, feminine, like with this vegan, it's about where is it? Man or woman born. About this, it's nice that each one has a possibility to create his own understanding what we are doing reading the Finnegans Wake.
Yes, Ban, if I'm not mistaken, is Irish for woman, so it's kind of a lot in this portmanteau. Oh my goodness. So, oh, there is a nice word, brimus, in the end of this, close to this marbled ice. Brimus, I had to look it up. It's actually, yes, it's a cup brimming with a drink, hopefully alcoholic, but also nice alliteration, if ever to bring bouncing brimus from marbled ice. Okay, people pointing when mentioned that. Goodness. Oh, right. We've got another drinking cue, which is footwear and hatwear. And we've got lots of hats throughout the fragment for today, and occasional boots and things like that. So who can point us to boots and hats?
What about Burlington?
Yep.
Are they footwear? It seems.
Yes, they are. And as I said in one of our previous sessions, I'm not concerned with all this clothes that HCE likes to show off, or Joyce, who is probably a little bit, obsessed and used clothes as fetishes. But of course, I'll drink to them, no question.
Guys, could you please repeat, because I found, I'm not sure that it was correct, but Tem, Homd, and Dicky, this line, yep, we are talking
Tam
about.
O'Shanter is a kind of a hat, yes.
Okay.
Well, Tam O'Shanter is a kind of a hat, informs us, wait, thank you very much, but Tam O'Shanter happens to be a poem by Robert Burns before it was a hat, hopefully. Okay, I don't really know but Tam O'Shanter, come on, that's Robert Burns.
We need at least I need onboarding and lickbase, how to say, for Robert Burns.
Well, liquidation of illiteracy, that's what you need, a crash course into literary everything.
Course, yeah.
Yes, well,
the emphasis on the crash.
Yeah.
Yes.
But this is what we are doing all the time, so you're welcome.
We all have gaps in our
yes, absolutely.
And this just to add that it's not like comment, but like opinion. Yeah, this amazing like, I guess we can say it like a refrain, like it was like Brichka, how it was named.
That's the jaunting car that was.
And here this pool woman is like vegan. It's very nice, like a friend, and all this which Bobby, you mentioned, and I guess everyone mentioned this like a person who is watching from the vegan outside, and all this around metaphors, not metaphors, epithets, adjectives, epithets. Yeah, thank you. They're really nice. To be honest, I need to say that this page and the previous page with Pinky Days, where is the description of.
Landscape.
Sorry, I remembered it in Ukrainian. Our Ukrainian equivalent was very nice, so that's why I remembered like this. Yeah, it's and with the first page, maybe it's the most picturesque for me, at least. Because I can really imagine this what is going on. Just in previous, it was very cool. Linda's comparison that Brichka is like we discussed it. Just like a vinyl, it was other comparison, but the idea was that you play these stones and roads while you're inside this Brichka. Yep, and so you play it, and here is vegan, and you make the same, but with your eyes, with seeing these landscapes. Yep, it's very. I mean, it's very cool, very nice.
There is an air raid alarm in Kiev, so Yana and I are in Kiev, right? And Yanina also, you're in Kiev, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
I'm Kiev, listening.
Yeah, so we'll be keeping an eye on what's going on because it depends. So an alarm in itself may mean a lot of things. So we'll be monitoring the situation. If necessary, we'll have to move to safer places. Okay, right. Okay. Yeah.
For now, it's on the plane.
It's a plane. All right.
257.
Okay, okay. So we'll keep an eye on it. And I suggest that we move on a bit and read the next section. Okay?
Sounds good.
Yes, Igor, please.
Cycloptically, through the window discs, and was eddying as the round eyes of the rundrisers, back to back, buck to bucker, on their airish chaunting car, beheld with interesting interestedness the clad pursue the bear the green the frore the clad again, as their convoy wheeled encirclingly about the gigantic's life tree, our fire-leaved lover-lucky Blomsterbaum, phoenix in our woodlessness, haughty, cacuminal, erubescent, repetition, whose roots they be ashes with lustres of pains. For as often as the Archicadinus, fleecing aside his Irish field and craving their auriculus to receptacle particulars, before they got the bump at Castlebar, mad and far, spoke of it by request all, hearing in this new reading of the part whereby, because of Diaz and his machina, the new Garrickson's grimacing grimaldism, hypostasized by substantiation the axiomatic aurea rotundity of that once grand old Elrington ball, the Copicus description of that fellow commuter's play upon countenance could simply imagine themselves in their bosom's innermost core as protem locums, time sported across the yawning abyss, as once they were seasiders, listening to the cockshy shooter's even-sung evocation of the doomed, but always ventriloquent agitator, no, not more plank or pound of the billows over the Thunawalhaya reef, silk-wetted, a walrus I might add, against the dusk of scummering. Would that fain be St. Muazin's calling holy places, and this fez, brimless as brow of faithful toucher of the ground, did wish it wear. Blessed be the bones, the Ghazi, power of his sword, his manslayer's gun-wielder pretended towards that overgrown lead pencil, which was soon, monumentally at last, to rise as Moliv Doc Dillon to be his mausoleum. Odan stood till Stein at Mises I schooled Chopin, while Oliver his exculpatory features, as Roland Rung, a wee drop-in of grief about to Silenize his joujoi. The ghost of resignation diffused a spectral appealingness as a young man's drown or the fate of his waters may gloat, similar in origin and accurate and effective to a beam of sunshine upon a coffin plate.
Thank you. You are capable of getting through the most difficult passages that we come across. I mean, look at this one. Okay, so what the thing that the whole passage for me is structured around, it's this gigantic tree, which is Yggdrasil. Of course it is, life tree. And look at the movement. So we've got the linear movement of the train on the track, and we've got the circular movement at the same time around this life tree. So because cycles combined with the linear movement as we perceive it. I mean, the whole wake is about it, I suppose, but here we've got it like a fractal thing, thing inside of a thing, inside of a thing. Joyce just loves doing this. Okay, right. I would love to hear your take on it. Maybe, Bobby, you will have to go soon. Would you like to go first?
Sure, yeah. So I feel like with the first passage, we got the fall, and now we're setting up not just the rise, but the structure through which you always arise, you always fall, and you always arise. He's setting up it's like like you said, a fractal. It's the entire book goes around in the circle, and he's setting up a cycle within a cycle. So I kind of have a weird take on this, if I can just get it off my chest.
We've never had a weird take on this. This will be the first one.
Yeah. And this is a lot of like where I think this Joyce and Finnegans Wake is so fun is I'm really just going to be bringing my own baggage to something and putting it through this lens. So we have HCE on trial, right? And he's on trial for a crime that we can't quite put our finger on. And and the idea is that this crime repeats throughout history. Like the original person that committed the crime is no longer around, but character types repeat. Those character types create societal structures. Those societal structures repeat. And so we have these repeating cycles through history where we have the crime repeats, the person repeats, and so we have that. So if we chase Joyce back down to the root, I think we might be talking about original sin. And so the train is circling around the tree of life, which is the scene of the crime. That's where the forbidden fruit was taken, right? So the problem with the forbidden fruit is not just that you get in trouble for eating it. It also has an effect on you. Depending on the mythology that you're following, there's a lot of different interpretations of what it does and why you shouldn't eat it. And current events have me thinking a lot about anarchy. Anarchy in the sense of not that you should go around throwing bombs to create it, but it's what already exists all around us, and that the intellectual discipline of thinking along those terms is about how you deal with living within anarchy, which is creating mutual associations. And one of the things that you have to do is decide whether or not authority is legitimate. So if authority is legitimate, then it's totally acceptable to interact with it. And so if HCE is on trial, that means that God is on trial. And if God is on trial, what are we trying to determine? Is his authority legitimate? And one of the ways that you would determine whether or not his authority is legitimate is, should you actually not eat the forbidden fruit? So one of the things that it supposedly does is it gives you the knowledge of good and evil and makes you like a divine entity by giving you that kind of Atman level consciousness, which is essentially what Joyce models throughout the book. It's that thing where you're a person, but you are also intertwined with a higher state of being, a higher consciousness. And so that's kind of what HCE is struggling with. Is he is all right. So then the other thing is, if committing the original sin and ascending to a divine mindset, then he is both the criminal and the person who is imposing the rule, right? Because he both committed the crime, but he broke the rule that he himself has created. And so it's like, that's why you have this melding of the accuser and the accused, because they've ascended to an identification with each other. Because that's what being HCE means, is that you are both the man and the God, and trying to reconcile that. But then you go back down to the level of where it's just a God. We literally are a creator God trapped in our own creation when you dream. That is an experience that you have, is you are surrounded by your own mindscape that you are presumably have some degree of control over, though not total control, because you get information from different places. And so that's kind of how I see this pursuing is, and then as you go through the passage, you end up meeting the four judges that recur throughout the whole book, which are also synonymous with all fourfold structures, which is also the fourfold structure of the book that Joyce is trying to make, which is, he calls an engine, a square engine, the four sides of the four judges, which tie in with the wheel of history and the seasons and every other fourfold structure that you can think of. And then to land at the end of it is, so why would you make something like this? What is Joyce doing? And I think he's literally trying to create a new Bible. Literally. It's not a commentary. It's not a parody. He's literally trying to create a new holy book, because as we see, holy books create culture, culture creates history, history informs our lives. And so he's trying to make a better one that will then make a better version of all of that. Now, whether or not that's a smart thing to do or a reasonable thing to do or something that could ever progress in that direction, I have no idea. But in terms of what I think he's trying to do, I think that's literally what he's trying to do. And one of the ways to do that is reckoning with that original sin, which is tied in with all of that. So sorry, that's a lot of my own baggage.
Amazing.
That's wonderful. And I would like to tell you, Bobby, because we have another big friend of our group, Lorenzo from the theory group, who also has big theories. His big theory is that Finnegans Wake is like one ring from the Lord of the Rings. So
I love that.
one ring that works linguistically. So it's supported by massive linguistic theory. And of course, well, the Bible is the book, the word. So these ideas, yeah, we have this collection of ideas that really help to get us through this. And we also mentioned in one of several of our sessions that Joyce had these two big competitors, right? Two huge rivals. One was Shakespeare and the other was God. So yes.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Not necessarily in that order. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that was the other thing, because there's so much Shakespeare in this passage that he's clearly engaging, and that's sort of what I was. So how I ended up at the Bible thing, I was thinking, well, he's clearly trying to compete with Shakespeare, and he's trying to like subsume Shakespeare into himself, almost to make like Shakespeare a prequel to what he's doing. But the thing that he's diverging from is putting everything into one book. Whereas Shakespeare thing was more like little story here, little story here, little story here, little story here, little story here. So why would you put everything into one book? And then that's what I was like, oh, of course, because you're trying to create a durable, undigestible text. Because if your text is undigestible, it persists into the future. You can't be encapsulated if it can't be fully assimilated. You know what I mean? It's like when you drop like an Alka-Seltzer into water and it dissolves.
Mhm.
If it doesn't have that much substance, it just goes bloop, and it's done.
Yeah.
But if it's so super, then it just keeps diffusing and diffusing and diffusing, and it then persists into the future. And like, if this thing persists in the future a couple of 100 years, it will become of that thing. Like, and then the other thing that I was thinking of, because there's so much of Islam in it. And that's the thing is what do you do? Like, if you're Joyce and you have this thought in mind and you're looking at the materials available to you, clearly you take those three books and you combine them together into a new thing that resolves their conflict. And we see like literally like written around the top of the Dome of the Rock is like, this is the third of the books, and you know what I mean? Like, so there is this progression of Old Testament to New Testament to Quran, and they're locked in this fight that we see play out on the world stage. So how do you resolve that fight? Another book.
Okay, are we going to be the apostles, do you think, right?
Well, I think, but not just, no. I think that everyone gets to be their own. So that's the thing is now everyone gets to be, because everyone receives a different message. So everyone gets to be the character that receives the thing. And so now I think here topically, like the hierarchy comes down and it's distributed. And that's what's different. That's what's like actually interesting and useful about preceding that you're just, it's decentralized. It's not all based on one. It's impossible to interpret it one way, literally impossible to interpret it in a way that everyone can agree upon, which makes it more useful and interesting. And no one can say, I am allowed to do this because this book says so, because the book is saying 20 things at the same time. You couldn't base that kind of abuse on a text like this. It's too flexible. It's too silly. It's too weird. It's just, but it could inform history in an interesting way where it breaks down boundaries instead of building them up, which I think is essentially what we need. I think it's the dissolution of boundaries that might be useful. I don't like to speak in absolutes because you could list 10 examples of why that's a terrible idea. But just in generality, I think breaking down the boundaries between groups will create cooperation and synergy and mutual benefit. Hopefully, maybe. I'm so sorry to have derailed because I got to take my son to work, so I got to bail.
Right.
I'm so looking forward to seeing the rest of the conversation. That was awesome. The beginning, like the interpretations you pulled out are so good. This is outstanding stuff, and I look forward to the rest of the conversation and the wider implications of everyone talking about this together.
Bobby, before you go, we send you off with a drinking cue because Shakespeare comes with a fantastic quote, "Pursued by a bear," which is a very famous stage direction from Shakespeare. A character exits pursued by a bear, and it's inserted here into this Viconian cycle. So it's Shakespeare plus Vico, and we can drink to that. And I hope that you will exit now, not followed by a bear, but just...
Yes. Thank you so much. This is I really appreciate everything you guys are doing.
Yes. Okay, bye, Bobby. Thank you.
All right,
So
I'll
much.
see you later.
Thanks a lot, and see you soon.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll see you at the live stream for the maybe night. And please, everyone, feel yeah. All right, take care.
Thank you.
Take care.
It's just to add. I mean, for me, it's a new thought, but I mean, I really appreciate Bobby's input regarding new Bible, new approach. I mean, it's I'm sure that it could be Joyce's contribution and Joyce's vision. Why not to be a God? It's quite a Joycean approach. But it's interesting that just top of my head regarding the 4 guys who are responsible for trials, who are, let's say, guys, those who can judge, as far as I understood, from text and from Bobby's message. It's interesting that in the not sure how to make the adjective in the tradition of Jung, the self, which can be interpreted like real God inside the person, in his terms. Is described by the figure 4, and it's like the internal stability, which if you perform all this internal dynamics through all the archetypes, etc., and you perform it properly, you have this stable position of 4, which is internal God. And it's very interesting. Like I didn't think about this at all during our readings, but this idea of the new Bible, new God, etc., which Bobby just shared, it seems to me interesting in this direction also to think.
Yes, I also enjoyed this, the idea of durability, that the book is so hard, I mean, so complex, and it's durable. It made me think of Terry Pratchett's Dwarf Bread, like indestructible brick, and you take it on a journey. Of course, it's a parody of Limbus, Elven Limbus, but Dwarf's Bread, it's like a rock, but it's also a sacred object. It's indestructible. When it's on a journey, it's more than just food. It's just something that keeps you going because you have it.
Interesting. Everybody had different associations, was Bobby said. I thought about his kind of notion of a new Bible and sort of rebooting humans was a new bias. And then like this notion of this book, in data science, there's this notion of compression. And can you like turn the territory into a map? Can you remove unnecessary detail and shrink something? And this book is not compressible. Like you cannot reduce it. There's no fluff in it. You can't throw anything out. It cannot be summarized. It cannot be simplified. I like the biblical references. There's a direct quote, or almost a direct quote, as Joyce does, about moving over the face of the waters. That's right from Genesis towards the end of the paragraph. But if we stay with numerology and 1s and 2s and 4s, there's also a 3. There are actually a couple of 3s. There's a ghost, so this is the Holy Ghost, so it's the Trinity. There are multiple mentions of ghosts, not just for Shakespeare, but presumably also for the Holy Ghost. But also we have this doomed but always ventriloquent agitator, which I think is Satan, who is always agitating and always like speaking in your ear, encouraging you to eat apples and do other things. And, and then he's cast down, he falls, he's the morning star. And so I think if we talk about the duality of God and man, and God and HC kind of becoming each other, I'm also curious if there's a third person here at the table, and the eternal agitator. Bobby brought up anarchy, and so somebody always throws the first brick, somebody always like stirs up the crowd, and so I see, just as I saw Jesuits in the previous paragraph, I saw Satan in this one.
There was a story I read. It was a fairy tale about a singer who wanted to create a song of all colors. Maybe you remember it. That was a story about a singer who created songs of different colors, and when people listened to the rose one, they became happy. When they listened to blue, they began to cry. And he had a dream to create something which comprised everything, and which will influence on all the people, old, young. And as for me, I see it, not a Bible, but a mirror. So everyone who is reading is trying to find something he's acquainted with, and he sees something he's, for example, he's living in, let me change, everybody sees something in which he is interested mostly at the present time. For example, when I was reading the lines, "Whose roots they be ashes with lustres of pains," I began to think about Nimlas, the tree which came from Telperions, and which was burned by Sauron by the hands of Ar-Pharazôn, and in Silmarillion, and it was the first idea when I read it. And everything depends on the things you are living with today.
Yeah, personal associations, but that would be true about most books. The same happened with Proust when I was reading that all the time. But you said about that colors. I'm not familiar with the story, but colors are very relevant to Finnegans Wake. It's another major motif, rainbow, and something is going on, as we mentioned previously. Something big is going on, some kind of polychrome game, but we haven't actually deciphered that yet. Hopefully that will happen in the future. In this passage, there is also ringing of the bells. And for me, it was amazing to discover about this bell called Roland, and that one is in Ghent, in Belgium. There is a poem written about it, and probably here Joyce references it through poetry, because there are a lot of references that come into Finnegans Wake through poetry. In the next passage, we'll have that as well. But before we come to the next passage, we definitely need to drink. We haven't drunk for quite a long time.
May I, Linda? I found one.
Yes, go ahead.
Archicadenus. It's the cat with a pipe in the center. I found cat.
So what about him? We're not drinking to cat with a pipe.
Sorry?
We are not drinking to cat with a pipe.
No, it was in the clues. No,
he wasn't on the list. No.
He is in the Matrix, but he's not on the list. So we have two different documents today. at
Yes.
least.
Okay, we have Turkish hat fest and we can
Yes,
drink.
yes, absolutely. Turkish hat fest. Not the first time, by the way.
Yana
Yeah,
says
there's the
that
fez right here. The gentleman next to Indiana Jones is wearing a fez.
Yes. Okay. So that's one thing. Okay, so there is something else here.
but the cat returns, guys. It was the cat returns. So the upper
Linda made another list for
Today.
our meeting.
okay, sorry.
Different
Sorry,
from
guys.
Igor.
So you guys matrix, we are not drinking, but we're using it, but please pay attention. In Igor's matrix, only the column on the right is marked as drinkable. Okay.
Okay. But you know, it's I'm cheating maybe subconsciously to drink more.
Yes, look, the column on the right, headwear, footwear, HCALP, and they are in my list. I took them from here to there. I've just added more cues that will connect our drinking today to our general drinking. It will be meta drinking because we're drinking according to a certain system and method. There is method to our drinking. So please.
Please
Okay.
accept my apologies.
Yes, apology accepted. But
Let's drink.
let's look at this. Let's look at the walrus. By the way, I've been singing I'm the walrus Gujup today, and my mind was interpreting the lyrics of this fantastic song according to Finnegans Wake. One day I'll write down or record or something the interpretation, because every line in Google Gujup can be interpreted with the help of Finnegans Wake. But we have the walrus here. Here he is. A walrus mighty odd. A walrus mighty odd, rings a bell. So it's a line from the ballad Finnegans Wake, and that, Sasha, is on our drinking cue list. So to Finnegans Wake.
Can I add another candidate so you can do a double drink?
Of course.
So I saw a penis, or I saw pains, but fine. An erubescent penis, perhaps, and he is just within one line from a bar. So I feel like that's sex and alcohol in reasonably close proximity.
Yes, on our drinking list, there is sex and booze. That's Joyce, anticipation of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. So sex and booze and songs like Finnegans Wake, obviously, but we only drink to them when they are in close proximity to each other. And that takes, some unpacking and deciphering. So you could have found something that I actually hadn't seen, but I have seen now.
Excellent.
By the way, speaking of songs, when Bobby mentioned his big Bible theory, and I asked, are we going to be apostles? And he kind of answered no, but I kind of heard yes anyway, because he's because I want to.
Very nice.
Yes, always thought to not be an apostle, knew that I would make it if I try. Then when we retire, we can write the Gospels, so they all drink about us when we.
But what for, Linda? What for? What for to read books and not to consider as apostles? It's a good point to read with the high aim, no?
Of course. Am I saying something against reading with a higher aim? Always look up to the stars.
I just added
Yes.
from my side.
Even if you are in a gut, when you are in a gut, you look up at the stars. That's what Oscar Wilde said. Oscar Wilde,
You have to convert other people to reach this high mission, who are not likely to convert. So.
We'll do
Maybe
it.
you are doing it.
We involve guys into Finnegans Wake reading. What we can do, we are doing.
Everything we possibly can. Okay, are we done with this fragment? Can we move on to Mr. Melancholy Slow? And what a passage.
horoscope.
Yes,
And why?
or as Igor called it in his
And
matrix,
Wyndham Lewis.
half-assed horoscope. And isn't it just? Okay, so let us read this. Not all the wise in the days of the beginning would a traveler remote, unfriended, from Van Diemen's land, some lazy scout or wandering poet, lift weary Willie his slow-cut snob-sick eyes to the semi-signs of his zodiac, and lengthily linger in a long flask neck, cracky cup, downtrodden broke, tough-sod, wild broom, cabbage blade, stockfish, longingly learned that there at the Angel, here hubbished for him poteen and tea and practice and baccy and wine, with woman what's wappling, and informally quasi begin to brisk a smile to queasy thin nonsense. There was not very much wind news blowing at the given moment through the hat of Mr. Melancholy Slow. I picked this one to read because I fell in love with it when I saw Angel and Demon. But then, as I tried to unpack it, I saw so much, probably the thing that strikes us most here when we discover it. This is the poem by Oliver Goldsmith, The Traveler. Just in case you haven't read it, it's a long poem. It's a fantastic poem from the 18th century. I'll just read the first lines. Remote, unfriended, melancholy, slow, or by the lazy shelt or wandering Poe, and so on and so forth. This wandering poet thinks about nations and happiness, and he looks at different nations. I particularly enjoy when he looks at Italians and he says, well, Italians, nah, bad, Swiss, no, and so on and so forth. So basically he is saying that it's not the nation that makes someone happy, but happiness comes from within. This is how he ends his poem. And obviously Joyce is doing here something. He's basing the whole passage on this wandering poet thinking probably about happiness, and also someone is almost beginning to smile, so probably someone is trying to find this happiness within, but it's kind of, you know, tricky, can be hard to find this happiness within. But also the previous fragment, that we discussed last time, if you remember, it ends with the word smile, right? And now right here in this passage, someone struggling with trying to smile. Okay, so for me, it is amazing. There is also horoscope, but I'm not going to talk about it. Guys, you're welcome. Your contributions on horoscopes are very much appreciated, and also Wyndham Lewis, but I hand it over to you. Horoscope? Anyone?
Well, it's not the entire horoscope. It's only half a horoscope. It's their semi-signs of the zodiac, and he only lists half of them, which are the ones that I depicted in the bingo matrix. So I think it's a red herring. I think, or red salmon. I would not try to prepare a horoscope for HC based on these signs.
Okay, phew. Okay, right. Straight away drinking cue. I hope you've noticed, pretty obvious here. Baccy and wine with woman words warbling. What if not sex and booze in very close proximity? Okay. So,
and it's also poteen here. Poteen, traditional Irish alcoholic drink made of potato.
Yeah. Yes, it's moonshine. And the famous thing in Ireland is poteen, not only Ireland, but island as well.
It's not traditionally Irish, but of course it's made everywhere. Yeah, and it's one of the things that makes people smile. I think that's why there is like a succession of different drinks and then sex and everything. What makes people happy, smile.
Some things are, you know, just eternal, like
And universal.
and universal. Yes.
There are shoes and hats in here.
Oh, shoes and hats. But show us shoes and hats first, so it will
Brogue.
official.
There's a lovely downtrodden brogue. So brogues are shoes. And then, of course, at the end of the paragraph, it talks about the hat of Mr. Melancholy Slow.
Absolutely. By the way, brogue is a kind of footwear, but also it's a kind of accent. And
Yes.
this meaning it's in Finnegans Wake ballad. So I'm going to take a pretty long sip here.
Yeah, there's another hat we missed in the previous paragraph, right next to the walrus. Somebody's silk hatted.
Oh God! Oh God!
there's a silk
Right.
hat.
I'll run out
Yes.
of mulled wine at this speed. Okay.
Yeah, I'll also show since we have the wandering poet in this section, this is a gentleman here standing next to a runestone, which is what some of the Scandinavian skalds used to record their sagas and poems. So runestones are quite interesting. If you haven't looked at those, it's a pretty unique feature of a Scandinavian landscape.
Yes, speaking of skalds, once again,
Always.
the poem by Goldsmith, once again, the first two lines, sorry, remote, unfriended, melancholy, slow, or by the lazy, Scheldt or wandering Po. Scheldt is a river in France, Belgium, and the Netherlands. Po is a river in Italy. And look, lazy Scheldt. In our text, this lazy Scheldt, the river turns into Skald. The name of the river turns into Skald. I'm thinking of how important rivers are in general in Finnegans Wake. And here we have a transformation of a river into a poet. And the second one, a wandering poet, the word poet we hear, well, it's Po, the river in Italy. It's also Edgar Allan Poe. It's also poet. It's also poet, a word that can mean a lot of things, including, it informs us, a drink. How about that? Right, guys, it's time to talk about Wyndham Lewis. We've all been waiting.
Yeah, and I would like to make a reference to what Bobby was talking, because while reading a lot about Wyndham Lewis and his opposition with Joyce, because it seems they began like friends, but then of course the opposition grew. And what was Bobby was talking that Finnegans Wake is a book about destroying hierarchies, destroying boundaries, and about decentralization. That's what Wyndham Lewis was against. He was fascinated by fascism at his time, and they lived at the time when fascism was like on the rise, and that's what made the opposition possible. And while reading some of the writings of Wyndham Lewis, that what he didn't like the Joyce, was not like Oscar Wilde or Bernard Shaw, didn't move to London, didn't choose the English career as a writer. He went to somewhere in Europe, somewhere which to the mind of Wyndham Lewis was not important. And that's why after this opposition became evident, Joyce put, as I read, a lot of references even further about Wyndham Lewis. And yes, this opposition is based on the fact that many critics believe that also Finnegans Wake is one of the most important anti-fascist books of that time when it was written. It was like published in 1939, which is very evident. Yeah,
that's such an interesting thought about it being anti-fascist. I can't say that I can immediately accept it. I will just need more evidence, but it's another of those great big thoughts, big pictures that it's lovely to have now, a collection of really mind-blowing ideas that are helpful to get us through this. So thank you very much.
I think it would be interesting to look at, for example, Umberto Eco's definition of fascism, because he gives a very useful framework, and like look through the elements and say, okay, how does Finnegans Wake refute it? So if it's all about the glory of the ancestors or things like that, how does...
Or making fun of the ancestors.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. Absolutely. I love these items by Umberto Eco. So yeah, in one of our future sessions, let's just see if we can apply them. I think we'll be able to somehow. I think that it will work.
We went like an hour and a half without mentioning Eco, so I think it's...
Yeah, it was high time, obviously. Okay, anything else on this bit? Because we've got 2 more bits to go through. Okay, this is it. Fantastic. Right, let's move on. Yana?
Okay. But in the Pragma, what formal cause made a smile of that to think? Who was he to whom? Or breeds not his name, nor the brown one his mate? Whose are the place wearers? Kivasti, Kisker, Kithe, Kitnabuja. Tell of the time of the tumulum, give the gab of the group. Be it cudgel place, country, or fish fellows town, or lickers land, or panux povengreski. What regnants raise the reins have leveled, but we hear the pointers and can gauge their compass, for the malice yields the mode, and the mode the menace, placeman, planciman, plowsman, plop. Sin, 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 the forefather folkers, for a prize of 2 pitchers with Ming, Chin, and Shani on the lie-low layer, will sit down on the hope of the goalie ghost of the Tithaman troubles, but his handed at highest not here. They come their zones, here the 4 of them, hark 4 of them. I says are Mapas, and I says Dean's Grage, and say nothing. I says Barna, and what about it? Hee-ho! Before he fell hill, he filled heaven, a stream, elp-lapping streamlet, coyly cold down, cool of the curls. We were but thermites then, we, our ant heap we sense as a hill of Allen, the barrow foreign people, 1 jotnars of Yale, and it was a gramelun among the folk troop that wonderstruck us as a sounder yonder.
Thank you so much. Yana, at some point your connection was a bit slow. Was it not only for me, guys? It was for everyone.
But it was very. I mean, it was very nice in the context.
That's what I wanted to say. It was very nice.
Yeah,
so
the problem is that I'm from mobile phone, because today the internet provider, something went wrong, and it happens every time when you need it the most. So that's why maybe this would connect.
But it was very nice.
My reading.
But that was good, especially the bit was the 4 wise men, right? There was some kind of mystical quality that your poor connection added to this bit. So all in all, I think it was a success, and thank you very much for reading this very tough bit. And straight away, let's drink, because ALP, I mean, we've drunk twice for HC, and here she is, a stream ALP lapping streamlet. Come on, let's do it.
Finally, we drink for Anna Livia.
Yes.
And Livia.
Okay. So Hungarian, what's the deal with all this references to Hungary in this bit, guys?
Is it a thunder word? Can I ask?
All right.
Immediately.
Okay. Is this a thunder word? It does look like one, because it's a very dense cluster of various languages, and this is what happens in a thunder word. It's not one of the 10 official thunder words, but some bits do feel like one. Besides, in the end of this passage, what do we have? That wonder struck us at the thunder under. Come on, this author is telling us something. And what he's telling us is that you can drink to a thunder word because it's one of your cues. So there we go.
Yes. Yes, thunder yonder is more like thunder, but it's not a word.
It's not a word, yes, but that bit with the Hungarian stuff is really very dense. Okay, so let's do it. Let's see what we can see in this bit. Well, we have here smile again. So this continuation, it's a story of a smile. In the previous passage, it was almost a smile. Somebody was about to smile, but now someone is getting very pragmatic about it. But in the pragma, what formal cause made a smile of that to think? Who was he to whom? Okay, someone at last is asking this question. Who are all these people? Who are they to whom? What a reason, what formal cause, what pragma has he got to smile?
If we think about it as a trial, it may be the questioning, by the way.
Good. Yes, absolutely. So here comes some serious questioning, but in the middle of this serious questioning, there is also this mythological layer as always. We've got this Egyptian Tmu or Tem, who it connects to something Bobby has been saying, right? About self-creation and putting yourself on trial, your God within, because this Egyptian God, he kind of self-created. By the way, it's interesting to compare how different annotation websites treat this bit, because our fleet seems to be a bit puritanical about this God and how he created himself. They mention spitting and self-abuse, while the other side, and I'm using Finnwake, they're pretty open. It's about masturbating in the mouth, and that's the way of creating yourself. So somehow self-abuse, come on, well, call it spade a spade, and well, Tam a Tam, and so on. That's another way to look at it. What is the story in the annotations to Finnegans Wake?
Yeah, so that's the Enki creation myth. That's a Sumerian creation myth, I think, about the god who uses his seed to create the world.
Well, surely there are more gods than one who thought of this very logical method of creating stuff. But here it's references to this Egyptian god, because this name Tam, but we don't know the vowel, so it's Tim, Tam, Tam, Tom, Tam, Tom.
Just a quick question, like, can we consider this kind of creation of the world as sex and drink as a cue for our sorry, just
that's a theological
oh,
question.
so there is a theological question. I think that Thomas Aquinas might have an answer to this thorny theological issue, but I'll drink anyway because, you know.
For the creation of the world.
Exactly.
This is not a particularly insightful comment, but I'm really enjoying the soundtrack of today's selection, as it starts with the sound of the train running, the Pullman wagon, and continues with the tolling of the Roland bell, and then switches to more natural sounds like the wind blowing, and now the sounds of thunder in this paragraph. So I'm trying to listen to the fragment as well as read it.
By the way, the sounds, Yeah, the songs that I mentioned are quite upbeat. There was a song earlier about something about bones rising. It's a, a pretty cheerful song. The ballad Finnegans Wake as well, and the Irish jaunting car. We did not say it, but in the passage that Igor read, there was a direct reference to Irish jaunting car, and that song also recreates the rhythm of the jaunting car. So if you put all that together, you get quite a dynamic picture and really quite melodious soundtrack, ending with the thunder here. So absolutely.
Also, we have here Aristotle and formal cause. Joyce loved Aristotle and philosophy. It reminds me of the third episode of Ulysses.
Mhm.
When I read it, just it came to my mind immediately. Something, the beginning of this, yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
Also,
so yeah,
Mhm.
go
just
ahead.
wanted to that for me it was interesting to understand what this kivasti, kisker, kisa, kitnabuja means, some strange words, but it turned out that it is dialect of the Australian soldiers who fought in the, I think, First World War, and Joyce studied even such particulars and details, which very amazing.
Yes, and we didn't mention this, but in the previous passage, there's Van Diemen's Land. That was a reference to the first name of Tasmania, which was amazing, and I discovered it. Oh, I didn't know that. I discovered it from the annotations, and it made me think. So remember how happy we are when we find reference to Ukraine, to key places like our river, the Dnieper, is in the book and so on. So the readers of Finnegans Wake across the world, they also get this. So there's this group in Melbourne that I'm now in touch with, and they say that they also very happy to find Australian references in Finnegans Wake. They say there's a lot of them, and they go, here they are. When they come across them, wonderful.
Full of Easter eggs. Finnegans Wake is, yes.
Let's call it like this. Yes. Mm-hmm. Oh, is it here? Yes, the hill of Allen. So once again, we've got references to Irish landscape and geography in general. So this hill of Allen, I had to look it up to see what place it is. So it has this mythological association with Finn McCool, who is one of many metamorphoses of HCE. But it's also a real place, and it's a hill, and on this hill there's a tower, so very phallic as usual, but there is also a kind of quarry near this place. It is very special, so when you have time, look at the pictures of this hill of Allen. Okay, and what else was I checking?
Yeah, four areas of Ireland also are included.
Yes, there are lots of fours in this passage, obviously, yeah, we used to have what, 4 waves of Ireland. Here we've got this 4 places.
And then 4 characters like Plissyman, Plainsyman, Plowsyman, and Plab. Also very interesting, like the diction and the kind of the sound and the rhythm and the tempo. I think it starts out more like a soliloquy, like a Shakespearean, and that pragma, what formal cause made us smile, who was he to whom, and then it descends into like more of the colloquial proverbs, like Placeman, Plainseman reminded me of Tinker Tailor, Soldier Spy, kind of more of a nursery rhyme rhythm. So I feel like we go from high to low.
Well,
and
from
then
high
it just
to
descends
low,
into foreign
yes,
language.
and 4 elements, that would be our Vico once again, Baconian cycles, from a policeman to plab, I suppose that's there. But you made me look at this passage again, and now I see for the malice yields the mode, the malice yields the mode. If malice is for music, music informs the mode of presentation. That's lovely, actually. And I haven't paid attention to it before that, so thank you. Okay, okay, so.
And here we also have reference to Confucius, which is, we were talking about Christianity, Islam, and here it's also the next religion which is included into this passage. Here, this Chinese, this story about two peaches is from Confucius legends and stories. And what I wanted to ask also, if we could consider rains and yields as their pair of opposition that are close to one to another.
Okay, well, which line? Raise the rain.
First and second in 57. Rains and yields, like the positions of in our cues.
Okay, what kind of a position would you like to explain? Would you like to prove your point? What is opposed here?
When you have power and you don't have power, like the position.
There's also opposition between raised and leveled.
Okay.
So up and flattened.
You've convinced me, right? No, not that I
Teamwork.
Lots of convincing. But I told you, you need to prove your point. So, okay.
The more you drink, the lower the burden of proof becomes.
I just would like to add this as well. Yeah, I'm ready to support any idea.
Okay, that's you, and I'm the one who offers opposition as usual, because you and I are what? Unity of opposites. You're welcome. Okay, right, and we've got one last bit to go through. Sasha, you're up.
You know, it's the most difficult part after all the drinkings, etc. Guys, you hear me good? I mean,
yes,
no...
yes, absolutely.
Okay, let me start. Thus, the unfacts, did we possess them, are too imprecisely few to warrant our certitude. The evidence given by Ledpool, too untrustworthily irreparable, where his adjugers are seemingly freak threes, but his judicandes plainly minus twos. Nevertheless, Madam's to show us vexes largely more lifelike entrance, one kudos, exits, 3, and our notional gallery is now completely complacent, an exiguous monument aerially perennious. Obliged with your blackthorns, gumps, disgrace, and there many have paused before the exposure of him by old Tom Code, a flashback in which he sits sated, roundabout in clericalist habit, watching blunt soul slice dodges somely into the nevermore, a globule of mournfulness about to regurgitate his mild-dewed cheek, and the tatter of a tiny Victorian, Alice, pressed by his limper loser.
Thank you very much. I actually think it's a lovely passage, lovely and deep at the same time. We've got the theme of museums again. Here we have at least two. Well, I mean, I can see two: Madame Tussauds Wax Figure Museum and National Gallery, National Gallery, which is the National Gallery. You noticed entrance and exit. You remember our museum room, right? Mind your hats going in, mind your boots going out. So entering museum and exiting from a museum seems to be important. But here, what glues it all together for me is this poem by Horace about the monument. The monument is a symbol of glory. So I'm erecting this monument for myself. And well, this is what will be remembered after I'm gone. So this works on so many levels. erecting a monument. That's part of our sacred geography and our major erection in Phoenix Park, and also the ironic attitude to this. But at the time, erecting the monument, because what is Finnegans Wake if not the act of creating such artifact as this? Okay. So what do you guys think about this reappearance of Lewis, not Wyndham Lewis, but Lewis Carroll?
I wanted to say that here I see very much the continuation of the trial about facts, evidence givers. So just how it questions and then who gives evidence. Just very good connection.
Yes, evidence, but in possibility of giving evidence, because unfacts, do we possess them? It's unfacts. Remember previously we had fact veritas, someone who is trying to find facts, but it's very difficult. But here, what we're given, what we're shown are photos that Lewis Carroll takes of this little tiny Victorian, this girl called Alice. But this girl Alice, it's also the way it's spelled. Yes, A-L-Y-S. It's anagram of Lisa. And Lisa comes again and again through Wagner. The first line there is, what is it? Mildun Leise, which turns here into mildewed cheek, and later we've got this girl Alice.
I'd like to point to, I don't know if they're quite drink-worthy opposites or not, but so one is this juxtaposition between high culture, National Gallery, and low culture, Madame Tussauds, so you can be remembered. Okay, go ahead.
I've been to Madame Tussauds, and I was pretty.
It is low culture, yes.
But it's so disappointing. It's disgusting. I mean, how people even charge money to look at this? You should be paid to look at this crap. So yeah, absolutely.
But fortunately, exit is free, so they do not charge you for leaving.
Thank you very much. I can exit this for free.
So you can be immortalized through a portrait in the National Gallery or through your likeness in Madame Tussauds, depending on what kind of immortality you're looking for. The other one, so of course, Louis Dodgsomely, he's described as gowned about in clericalese. So Dodgson and Lewis Carroll gowned about. So this is an academic gown that he would wear as an Oxford don. Clericalist habit is what he would wear as an Anglican deacon. So both his religious and his academic outfits, clothing, both his Dodgson and Lewis Carroll personalities, not necessarily in opposition, but more in harmony with each other, perhaps.
And isn't Tata a hat?
Certainly.
Oh, well, then.
Lots to drink to.
Yes.
I didn't find the second near the head, but I accept the idea.
As one of the judges, you do not object to the evidence.
Yes, no objection.
This unfact.
They say objection during the trial. What is the opposite that they say? Like,
so the objection is either sustained or overruled.
Sustained, right? Or overruled.
Like in the movies.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. Okay, very good. I had a thought, but I lost it. I need to look at all this.
Drinking, yes.
Yes, it's all the drinking. Lewis Carroll again, and okay.
And Nethermore, of course.
Nethermore, yes, Nevermore. That's Ellen at Comport. He's somehow present throughout this fragment today, but in a very subtle way. Perhaps, well, with Nethermore, it's more obvious than in the previous passages, but he's been with us today, hasn't he? Okay, but what was my thought? Globule of Mortliness, data of tiny Victorian Alice pressed. Oh, there was something here that I'm losing. Okay, yes, perhaps we need to shorten the list of drinking cues a little bit by 1 point, probably. Okay, so what I liked a lot about this is this leg pull. Well, leg pull, to pull one's leg is an expression, but also it made me think of exit poll. Is it just me? So you're nodding. You also thought of exit polls, right? When you leave in the place.
Well,
About it.
and it's evidenced by leg poll, so it's almost like they took a poll of the like the jurors, perhaps. So perhaps there's a jury as well as the judges, and they polled the jurors, and so many said guilty versus not guilty. So yeah, so there's clearly information gathering happening. It's not just that Joyce is perpetually pulling our leg.
Okay, right. Very good. And also, it's not just Lewis Carroll. Oh, here's the thought. It's come back to me. Okay, so I remembered something about Lewis Carroll. I wonder if we mentioned previously, but Lewis Carroll stuttered, right? That's how his nickname Dodo came about, because his name was a Dodson, but he could not say Dodo. He was a stuttering man. So probably that's another way of connecting him to HCE, who is the stuttering poet, to quote Roxanne. Okay, okay, remember that, very good. And there is word slithy or sleazy slithy from Jabberwocky here as well, and it in the same line as Nevermore. Just imagine that raven from Nevermore coming into Jabberwocky. What a thought. I'll think about it later for a little bit longer. I like that thought. Okay, good. Have you got anything else on this bit?
I had just an interesting, let's say, how to say, I started with this with my part. I read it like I don't know 30 times before I read the comments to this part. And it's very interesting thing that even if you understand nothing in the text, but after the 30th or 40th time, you suddenly begin to understand something. Yep. And it's interesting that after I've read the comments to this part, my understanding of something, I mean, it's not some real things. It's just the order of some sounds, and that's all. It was like more profound than the comments which I read then. So it's a kind of I guess, Linda, it's about our discussion, like when senses are going to not for sentences, but for smaller parts of sentence, for sounds, etc. It was like very interesting observation.
Of course. Well, let's remember that Finnegans Wake is a very physical presence. The sounds of it, the combination of sounds, the clusters of it, the difficulty of it, the density of it. It's just like what Bobby said earlier today. There is no padding in it, right? You cannot take anything out. It's all there for a reason. And the way you interact with it in itself is kind of not only intellectual experience, it's a physical experience, emotional, of course. But we are good in our emotions. We have them. We get a lot of those emotions in the process, and of course when we meet to discuss, because then we can kind of feed off each other's emotions. Okay, so if this is it, very good, because we've been here for almost 2 hours, and I think it's high time to round it all up. Any final cues that you found? Because I still have got some mulled wine, you know?
It's not a cue, but sorry, I have a question about Igor's matrix. I don't understand memory card, what is related to, and I wanted to ask about it. memory
like
card.
disk.
Yeah, we haven't talked about syntax. And of course, there were parentheses. I think what Igor meant were parentheses. And in this passage, there was some crazy syntax. There were parentheses in parentheses and parentheses. Igor, is that what you meant?
Yes, this C memory card. I wanted to understand what it is about.
Yeah, so this is a window disk that is mentioned on the previous page.
First page of window disk.
Cycloptically through the window disks.
Window disk.
Oh.
Very nice.
The window disk.
I didn't get it.
Igor,
I
you
didn't
are
get it
getting
too.
complicated. You are getting very Joycean.
Yeah,
apologize.
it's too difficult.
So yeah, so we have the window disk, we have the penis, so that's a hat tip to our friend Sigmund Freud.
Mhm.
And then yeah, we got everything else, I think.
Yes,
Yeah,
we
we have
got that.
LP,
easier.
we had shoes and hats, yes.
Yeah, it's easier than.
And traces of Jesuits, what it was?
That was Francis Xavier FX,
Uh-huh.
and
Okay,
this
okay.
is Charles Francis Xavier, the head of the X-Men.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
As a good Jesuit who runs a school. Excellent. Well, thank you again for organizing. This is
Oh,
fantastic.
okay. I found the final cue, I think, in the last line, pressed by his Limpalooza. To be pressed by something, think about it, you can be pressed by something hard and solid. You cannot be pressed by something limp and loose, you know, right? So I will call it the unity of opposites, and I will take my final drink. You with me?
A good place to finish.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you for this
Slancha.
meeting.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Bobby. Thank you, everyone who has found in them to watch it till the end. Right, so we are going to continue. And if people want to join us, Sasha, what do you think?
Yep.
People want to join us?
I would like to say that yep, if someone would like to join us, it's our great pleasure to meet you at ours. You can just contact us through Bobby, or I mean, there our we will add our, I guess we'll add our contacts to the video, and also. Usually we following the Joycean legacy and recommendations from Finnegans Wake regarding the killing of Russian general. Yeah, so if we are talking about our group, it's the Ukrainian Finnegans Wake reading journey, and for sure we have war right now, and we gather membership fees each month, and we transfer 100% of this fees to Ukraine Army to kill Russian general. And we will add also the PayPal. If someone would like to follow Joe's advice, please feel free. Yep, and we are waiting for you at our meetings. And once again, thanks a lot for all for joining for this very nice trip. And one additional special thanks to Bobby with his remarkable contributions, and yep, thanks for having been with us.
Thank you very much. Goodbye, everyone. We'll see you all.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.